What do you make of this bombshell affidavit?
All right, I have a few thoughts on this affidavit. The first is that it would explain, I suppose, the wild bias that we saw from those ABC news moderators and what we saw unfold, though I also assume just their general lack of professionalism and democratic bias could have also produced what we saw.
Totally.
I have to say, the dissemination of this affidavit through Twitter puzzles me a little bit, coming as it does from a news insider, where it's percolated on various Twitter accounts, and it's been hard for me to understand what exactly the provenance of this is and how seriously to take it. So to the whistleblower, if you're out there, there are news outlets that would like to speak with you and assess your credibility. Contact us, E. Johnson at freebeacon.com at the Washington Free Beacon, because it's very difficult for me to assess the credibility of the document without knowing who's behind it, what their role in putting together the debate was, how they came to know that ABC was cutting these alleged deals. That being said, if what this whistleblower says is true, it's of course a big scandal and would explain a lot of what we saw. And I did go back and read the New York Times story on the deal that Tony West cut when he was at the Justice Department. And he's not just Kamala Harris's brother-in-law. He's a senior advisor to her campaign, having supplanted her sister, Maya, who played that role in her 2019 campaign to disastrous effect. But West is playing a major role in this campaign and handpicked Eric Holder to do the vetting of Tim Walz, because those two served at the Justice Department together in the Obama administration. And I was very amused in the New York Times story. It says that he was handing out cash payments to minorities who didn't even allege any bias had taken place. He was finding people and basically saying, here's $50,000. Much to the outrage of career government lawyers who said this is totally inappropriate. That being said, it would seem weird to me that someone would ask a debate question about Tony West.
But it wouldn't seem weird that her team would say he's off limits.
It just seems sort of that part seems far-fetched to me. The bit about her prosecutorial record and about fact-checking Trump but not her, that seems much more realistic.
But I mean, Biden's mental fitness for her to say, like, I believe she would not want to answer questions about that.
I totally agree. I'm with you on that.
I want to say this somehow, I don't know how, but somehow this could be a massive troll. Right. This could be somebody just trying to see who will bite on this story, repeat the allegations. And so we need to be conscious of that. I do not want to put, our credibility behind this affidavit at this point. But there are very prominent.
Megyn, that without any kind of whistleblower affidavit, ABC News and the way they conducted that debate is a scandal.
Agreed, Eliana, but if any of this affidavit is true, ABC News is finished.
Agree.
That's why it's a big deal. That's why, you've got Bill Ackman out there demanding that Bob Iger, Bill Ackman is nothing to shake a stick at. He's a very prominent American citizen, businessman, and he's demanding that Bob Iger respond to this affidavit right now. And there are many others all over the internet demanding a response. Just deny it. Go on the record and say, this is bullshit. None of this is true. Come forward. The whistleblower should come forward with his, I think it's a he, name and face and make these allegations on the record, to your point, so we can assess credibility. We can figure out whatever bias he has. He says he's not a Donald Trump supporter. He's not even going to vote for Donald Trump in this election. The thing that's the most persuasive about it to me, Emily, on the other side of the roster, like suggesting that this could indeed be real, is that it's dated September 9th. He says that it was sent certified mail to himself and Speaker Johnson on that day. And so this is before the debate ever happened. And we've got a little time, so I'm going to read you some of it, okay? Because people may want to hear this. He says he's been duly sworn. you do sign an affidavit under penalties of perjury. I mean, he's committed a crime if this is untrue and if, in fact, it's a real affidavit. He says, this is my name, though it's been blocked out. I've worked for ABC News, ABC, and then lowercase news, which would be interesting, for over 10 years in various technical and administrative positions. Now, that right there is interesting. Technical and administrative positions is not a reporter. It could be somebody who is in tech around the journalists who might be present as certain discussions are had. I mean, the journalists often kind of forget about the tech people around them. They have enough to think about. They don't really think about the supportive tech staff. And they certainly wouldn't be hiding conversations from these guys who you generally trust implicitly. But this guy goes on to say that bias is running rampant inside ABC News to the consternation of many of the employees. So maybe some of the tech guys or administrative people started to get upset. Because most interestingly, this guy's claiming he has tapes of the conversations he's alleging in this thing. Okay, so I go on. Technical and administrative positions, he says he's held. Since the acquisition of ABC News in 1996, which would have been before his tenure there, I have observed significant transformation in the nature of the news reporting here. The changes suggest a shift from unbiased reporting to a model influenced by external factors. For the record, I do not endorse Donald Trump in his capacity as a candidate for president. The intent of this affidavit is to address concerns regarding perceived biases within the news reporting by my employer at this debate that will be hosted tomorrow, September 10th. Skipping over some things, but he says it's common knowledge that debate moderators as well as chief executive officers of my employer are well known not to support Donald Trump, which led to several employees speaking up in regards to how fair this debate would be. We were given assurances the debate would be fair and no one would be given an unfair advantage. It is my belief that contemporary news organizations, including ABC News, no longer adhere to impartiality. He goes on to say the specific instances of perceived bias are as follows. This is what he's claiming he knows prior to the debate. The Harris campaign received particular accommodations, including but not limited to providing of a podium significantly smaller than that used by Donald Trump. Well, I think we all saw that. That definitely happened. I don't know that that's inappropriate. She's just 5'2". And assurances regarding split screen television views that would favorably impact Kamala Harris's appearance relative to Trump. That's interesting. It was agreed that Donald Trump would be subjected to fact-checking during the debate, while Kamala Harris would not face comparable scrutiny. Now, that's totally out of line, if that is true. If there is one word of that is true, that they agreed with her team they would be fact-checking Trump and or agreed she wouldn't be facing comparable scrutiny, these guys are toast. Toast. The debate moderator, Lindsay Davis, is out there already saying we plan to fact-check Trump. We saw the criticism against CNN for not fact-checking Trump. And that's why we had all these fact-checkers across ABC running down his claims he'd made at interviews or in rallies. Now, that would be a normal thing to do as a debate moderator, but you would do it for both sides. I don't know whether they did it for Kamala Harris. I certainly saw that they never once fact-checked her. But this guy's saying there was an agreement that Trump would be subjected to fact-checking during the debate, and Kamala Harris would not. And it's unclear to me, because he starts the bullets by saying that the Kamala Harris campaign received particular accommodations. And then this is in a second bullet that just says it was agreed that. So what does that mean? Agreed within ABC or agreed with the Harris campaign? And then he goes on to say various people were assigned to fact-check observations it was perceived candidate Trump would make during the debate. And then he goes on to say, in fact, Harris campaign required assurances that Donald Trump would be fact-checked. This was done via multiple communications with the Harris campaign, whereas the Trump campaign was not included in the negotiations. To my understanding, any rules, negotiations, and conversations pertaining to the debate should have been with both camps involved. And the Harris campaign had numerous more calls, he writes, regarding the debate rules without the Trump campaign aware or on the call. So he is saying that this was done directly with Team Harris, that they were assured they would fact-check Trump, and he alleges she would not face comparable scrutiny. If this guy's got that on tape, they're done. They're toast if they did that. I cannot underscore the height of unethical behavior that would reach. They are likely going to deny this. They're going to be forced to respond to this. They may say this whole thing was a hoax. And I've got to be honest with you, members of the audience, it might be. We don't know. What I see here is what purports to be a sworn statement to this effect. They go on to say the Harris campaign was provided with sample questions that, while not the exact questions, covered similar topics that would appear during the debate. Furthermore, the Harris campaign imposed restrictions on the scope of questioning, including 1, no questions regarding the perceived health of President Joe Biden. 2, no inquiries related to her tenure as AG in San Francisco. That's confused because she was DA in San Francisco. She was AG of the state thereafter. 3, no questions concerning her brother-in-law, Tony West, who faces allegations of embezzling, not quite right, billions of dollars in taxpayer funds, who may be involved in her administration if elected. Last but not least, there are other things in here. You can go and read it yourself. He signs it. He got it notarized on September 9th, 2024, to ensure that the allegations are formally documented prior to the debate. He says, I've also dispatched a FedEx package containing this affidavit sent on December 9th, delivered to my own residence on September 10th, which will remain unopened for potential investigative purposes. I've also sent a certified letter to Speaker Mike Johnson dated September 9th to establish a record that the correspondence was sent before the debate. And finally, he says, for further investigation, I have secretly recorded several conversations that will prove that the Harris campaign insisted upon not only the fact-checking of Donald Trump, but also insisted on what questions were not to be asked under any circumstances, or else the Harris campaign would decline to participate in the debate. The man who broke this online goes by the Twitter handle Black Insurrectionist. I would like to tell him that technically it wasn't an insurrection. He's a Trump supporter, says he's MAGA all the way. And he says there's a transcript of some of these recordings that he begged the person to allow him to release, but the person said no. He speculated the goal would be to have ABC deny it and then drop the transcript and or the tape recording. I don't know. This is really specific. And if it's a long con, they went to a lot of effort, Eliana, a lot of effort.
Let's hear the tapes. I'm ready for the tapes and to talk to the whistleblower and go from there. You're right. It is elaborate and specific.
How about you, Emily? Do they need ABC and Kamala Harris? I mean, she's accused of cheating. Make no mistake. She's accused of cheating and ABC is accused of cheating here. Do they need to respond, including Bob Iger?
Well, yeah, because this is getting so much traction online. I mean, they feel the need to respond to every breath of disinformation. So they might as well respond to this, which is, much more than a single breath of disinformation. It's gone very viral. And so it should be very easy, if none of this is true, to just immediately say it's not true. And I would say TikTok to both ends. TikTok to the person who leaked this, which I agree, to Eliana's point. If you're somebody who works in a major news outlet like this, you would imagine they would be sort of media savvy enough to not drop it to a kind of random Twitter account. But at the same time, there could be reasonable explanations for why that happened. So TikTok on your end, if you wanted to wait for ABC to issue a denial to release the transcripts and the recordings, let's see them. And on ABC's end, if this is not true, just prove it's not true. It's so easy. It's so easy to just go on the record and have people implicated in this go on the record. So I'm curious to see how it develops. And I would just underscore a couple of points you just made as well, Megyn, that there were a couple of conspicuous things that happened in the debate. One, no question about Biden's health. I did find that to be extremely interesting. And no question about Kamala Harris's prior knowledge of Biden's health, her position on Biden's health. And the fact of the matter is the last debate was with a different candidate, and they switched out a candidate at the last moment. It's one of the biggest stories in political history. It didn't get a question at the debate, which was going to be the only debate after that happened. I mean, it's just insane. So that to me is very strange. That I thought that was conspicuously absent from the debate. There are a lot of dumb questions, but that one was big. Also, the 4-on-0 fact check, which would correspond with this affidavit, I thought was weird. Usually just for the sake of covering their butts, they'll throw in a fact check of the other candidate. So it was somewhat odd and would seem to correspond with the affidavit that they literally did not do a single fact check on Joe Biden. And remember also, ABC News was hit with a huge leak when Amy Robach's tape about Jeffrey Epstein, the network killing her story, went to Project Veritas just a couple of years ago. And that was a on-camera recording. So it could potentially even be the same person. Somebody who works on the tech side had a copy of that. These things do leak.
Imagine waking up one day to find out your home no longer belongs to you, that someone somewhere has stolen your property right out from under you. It sounds unthinkable, but it is a sad reality for some American homeowners and a risk for anyone that owns property. House stealing, that's what the FBI calls it. And it's a form of real estate fraud where scammers leverage loopholes in the system to fraudulently transfer your home's title into their name, then take out loans against your property or even sell it behind your back. And by the time you find this out, the scammer's long gone, leaving you, the legitimate homeowner, to clean up the mess. But right now, triple lock protection is available through HomeTitleLock.com, offering 24/7 title monitoring, alerts, and restoration services. You can sign up today at HomeTitleLock.com and use the promo code Megyn for 30 days of protection for free and a comprehensive title scan to make sure that you're not already a victim of this kind of thing. It's promo code Megyn and HomeTitleLock.com or just by using the link below. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.